In this episode, we talked about all kinds of tough moments that can happen, namely just having to sell all of your things and just leave. That's something that not everybody can do, but it's something that a lot of people are going to find themselves feeling like they have to do. And sometimes that can be just what you need. So without further ado, let's get started. Welcome to the Lifestyle Chase, Season 2. This podcast features high performers who have found a way to live their best life while balancing their health, wellness, friends, and family. I'm your host, Chris Little. Let's get started. The Lifestyle Chase is brought to you by Yeg Fitness. Yeg Fitness is Edmonton, Alberta, Canada's healthy lifestyle community, creating and supporting active living for all. Check them out online at yegfitness.ca and on social media at yegfitness. Alright, so welcome to episode 68 of the Lifestyle Chase. I am joined by the one and only Shannon Droeske.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. What was the most exciting thing to happen to you today?
To happen to me today? Coming here, honestly. I was really jacked up about this.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Just a humble 680 square foot condo. It's no big deal.
Yeah, well, and my youngest nephew also shared his McDonald's french fries with me, so that was a pretty big deal.
Now we're talking.
Yeah, that was a pretty big deal.
So, what is your way to wake up in the morning? Do you do coffee? Do you do a workout? What do you do?
I do coffee. A lot of coffee.
Yeah.
That extends throughout the day. I had one right before coming in here also. But I also do meditation.
Nice.
That's my go-to. And then when I can do it, I like to get to the 6:15 class at Champs.
Nice.
Yeah.
So in terms of coffee, how do you prepare your coffee, or where do you go? What's your ritual for that?
I do a scoop of collagen, and I do, it's Coffee Mate Double Creamer. So it's still not very good for you, but it's not as bad as 2 teaspoons of sugar.
Yeah, okay, rationalize it however you want.
Yeah. Or McDonald's, 1 cream, 1 sugar.
Fair enough. So if it came between Tim Hortons and McDonald's, you would always choose McDonald's?
Always choose McDonald's now,
Nice.
yeah.
What's your rationale?
For choosing McDonald's?
Yeah.
Tim Hortons just doesn't taste as good to me anymore.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's good
McDonald's
reason.
is better tasting.
Like, they changed the producer, or like, McDonald's bought the rights for the Arabica beans, I think is what happened, didn't they?
Oh, well, that was the best business decision they've
pretty
ever
much
made, honestly.
Because it's been unanimous, everybody I've asked, it's been McDonald's coffee.
McDonald's is so much better.
So, now let's talk about meditation. What was the first time that you got into meditation? Like, what made you think, I am a person who meditates?
Well, I've kind of actually been doing it my whole life without realizing. But I did a lot of like mindfulness meditation where I would just be driving and I'd either park and just have music on and listen to the music and just zone out into that, which is kind of how I find I get my best ideas and I do my best thinking. But I started, after like a couple really rough years, I started a healing journey, doing like energy work and realizing what past traumas are and things like that. And this is about 3.5 or 4 years ago now. And so there was meditation involved in that. And then just over a year ago, I was introduced to lifestyle meditation and instantly was obsessed with the building and everything that they have in it. And so I did all of my training and became an advanced meditation teacher and mind body coach based in the science of Ayurveda. So it's like an ancient 5,000-year-old science from India. But so it was just trying it out. It was actually in a workshop that I was at, and it was explained to me on a scientific level and like what's physically happening to my body. And I was like, I love this. This I need more of. And been doing that basically daily ever since.
I like it. So you talked about how you've kind of in some way, shape, or form done meditation your whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Can you reflect on like the earliest memory you've had and what made that feel like meditation for you?
I wouldn't have had the term meditation back then, but oh gosh, I can remember way far back being a kid, being like 4 or 5 or 6, and going inside of myself and inside of my own brain, essentially, and just like completely zoning out to the world around me. So that far back.
That's crazy. What was a day in the life of that version of you? Like, were you playing outside? Were you inside? Did you read?
Oh yeah, man, I was wild. I was a wild little kid. I was a kid that had really, really big emotions. I'm a grown up that still has really, really big emotions, but yeah, I did a lot of playing outside. I was always outside.
What was your favorite game as a kid?
I think I grew up across the street from a ravine. So me and my friends, we would always, I don't know, we were like hunting for like monsters and things living, like creatures living in the ravine and stuff. And we were always ducking in and out of the paths. And I had a friend growing up whose older brother used to tell us some pretty gnarly ghost stories that eventually freaked us out. Yeah, we were just making stuff up all the time.
Nice. I like it. Did you have like sort of like a dream of what you wanted to be when you grew up then?
I did.
What was it?
I did. This is really going to date me, but I watched Melrose Place growing up, and I really always wanted to be Heather Locklear's character. Her name was Amanda, and she was an advertising executive, and she had the corner office, and she was just this really powerful woman, and I was like, I'm doing that. That's what I'm going to do.
So what was it about that role that you were like, that's what I want to do?
I don't know if back then I could have put a word on it. I think maybe it was just, I saw her as being super successful and very independent. And now to reflect back on that, that character she was just very sure of herself and very confident in all the situations that she was in, and then that paid forward for her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. And that kind of, a lot of the situations that we find ourselves in is like not feeling sure of ourselves, especially in like these new industries, like where if you're in fitness in any capacity, it's going to be pretty easy to not feel sure about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you're self-employed in any capacity, it's going to be really easy to feel unsure of yourself. And so I want you to think of one of the more recent, like in the last 5 years, where you felt the most unsure of yourself and what life was like at that point.
I would say, oh gosh. Honestly, I would say probably the last 5 years of my life, with the exception of this past year. So previous to that, everything that I kind of knew to be true, like, imploded on me. And I left a very toxic relationship with someone that I really, really cared about, still very much care about. And then my dog, who was my very best friend and strongest soul connection, passed away very tragically. And I kind of was like, I'm out of here. And I literally I quit my job. I was the marketing director for the Edmonton Minor Soccer Association. And I quit my job. I sold everything I owned, and I mean everything. I sold my house, I sold my car, I sold the entire inside of my house. I think I kept maybe 5 boxes of things and my bed, because my bed is gold. And I just left. And I didn't have a plan. I didn't have anything. I just took off and I went traveling for about 10 months. And then I came home. And coming home was probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Not the actual act of coming home, but being back and now being this sort of evolved version of myself and someone who has now seen a different perspective, not only on life, culturally speaking, but just on my own stuff, was crazy hard. And just being unsure of coming back to everything that I knew, but having no place in it anymore.
Yeah.
Very tricky. Very, very unsure of myself.
So when you traveled, where did you travel to? If you could pick out like 3 of the top places, because I imagine you probably covered a lot of ground.
I did cover a lot of ground. I went to Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, Bali, and Australia. And my favorites would be Thailand and Bali. Bali is like my second home.
So can you identify a moment that puts you like really far out of your comfort zone in your travels? Like I imagine there should be a handful. Like it's a totally new country.
Yeah, there was a lot. The very first morning that I woke up in Thailand and I was all by myself and I hadn't even connected to the Wi-Fi yet.
Oh my God, no Wi-Fi!
I know, so I was completely disconnected from everything I knew. And I woke up and it was pretty early in the morning because of the time change and stuff. And all I could smell was stir fry. And I was like, what is this? This is a very pungent odor for 5 o'clock in the morning. So that kind of, I was like, I'm not in Kansas anymore.
That's awesome.
Yeah, like I guess I really did this. That was the big one. I also I love scuba diving. Like the further into the water I can go, the better. So seeing all the different like animals and stuff, or water life in all the different places was so cool. And then I also went skydiving.
Ooh.
Which honestly, it was probably 2 weeks before. And I was literally telling my parents, oh no, I'll never go skydiving. Like that is just not even on my radar. No, that's crazy. It's silly. I'm not doing it. 2 weeks later, I'm jumping out of a plane at 15,000 feet. Yeah. I'm like, okay, just kidding.
How'd they react to that? Did you tell them before you went?
Told
or
them
after? Oh, yeah.
Told them
That's
after.
The way to do it. Yep.
Yeah, and then I sent them the video.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
It's not complete unless it has the video.
Yeah, and it's a really cool video too.
Did you have like the helmet cam on yourself, or was
No.
Did you have somebody with you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So then they had the helmet camera.
They had the camera on their wrist.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So it's literally a video of me and all of my facial expressions.
Yeah.
There was a part where I even teared up, and they caught me like wiping a tear off my face and stuff. It was really cute, but it was absolutely amazing just seeing what I saw. Just from up there, I was like, wow.
I think one of my favorite takeaways of bungee jumping or skydiving, I include bungee jumping because that's the thing I've done. I'm a little too chicken for skydiving at this point, but bungee jumping is still something.
I'm more scared to bungee jump.
But I mean, it's like, it's the thought that, you know, what goes down must come back up. Like, it's not like it's down and game over night, except for the fact that you're putting an extreme amount of faith into the like equipment setup they have going on there. Like they could just new guy on the job and he put too much slack in the bungee thing and boom, all gone.
Yeah. Well, they could just not fold the parachute right too.
True enough. But I mean, when you're with the other guy, that's the peace of mind as well. The other guy needs to survive too, so they're going to put a lot of extra thought into this.
Yeah, and they do like 9 or 10 jumps a day.
Yeah.
So.
And I mean, it's a business. They're not gonna position themselves to fail if they can help it.
I just think with the bungee jumping, like, doesn't that hurt your back?
Oh, I'm sure. Like you wouldn't want to make a habit of it over an extended period of time.
Yeah, I just couldn't imagine.
I guess the biggest thing is it teaches people some things. Like sometimes when somebody's like, look, like what's a problem now won't be a problem 5 years from now. Like it's really hard to fathom that.
Yeah.
But then when you take something and it completely just obliterates your central nervous system because you're that freaking scared, and then you realize, okay, well, I was like scared beyond all scaredness for that brief moment when I was falling and plummeting to my what I thought was imminent death, and then I survived, and I realized, well, this isn't a big deal. Like I got over it.
Yeah.
How did you correlate that with your moments of like feeling kind of helpless? Like, what are we gonna do? The world has come crashing down.
I have a big mentality of fuck it, and I always know that I'm gonna be fine. I'm gonna be taken care of. And when I think of jumping out of the plane, I did have a moment of, okay, I'm just doing this, fuck it. And then everything was fine. So it's like coming to a point of I can worry or I can not. And whatever's going to happen is going to happen either way.
Yeah.
And I'd rather just not have the freak out.
That's a way to survive life, for sure. To not worry so much about the things that are out of our control.
Yeah, I just, honestly, I take a breath and I just like physically let it go from my body. I can physically feel the fear leaving my body.
Yeah. So when you went and you had to sell all those things and you were going to just up and leave and just make a shift in life, what was tougher, doing that or coming back?
Coming back. When I left, it wasn't an idea of my own making. Like, I was guided to do that. And I'd noticed that I had seeds planted even way back when I was a teenager or in my 20s. And I would say all the time, you know, people live on the beach. Like, people do that all the time. People just quit the life they're not happy with and they do these things. And I never actually pictured myself doing it. But then my time came and it was like, oh, I already know what to do. I've already been told what to do. So that was simple for me. And then coming back, honestly, I've been back 1.5 years and it's been so challenging. I've grown more in this 1.5 years than I did when I was gone. So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you did kind of like reflect on stir fry as being the thing that puts you the furthest out of your comfort zone. So I was like, well, there's nothing really like profound and life altering, but like you got some rest and relaxation. That's what counts.
Yeah, I mean, meeting new people and all that, like, but that's all stuff that you expect and you know is going to happen.
Yeah.
So for me, like the moment of realization was like, okay, I've really done this. Was the stir fry. That was the stir fry. And then I just kind of let whatever unfold. Yeah. Whether things worked out or things didn't work out. I really learned to just kind of say, fuck it. Because when you're on, especially when you're in Asia, like, man, it is like a different way of, like, there's no sense of time. It's like, yeah, things happen when they happen. And, okay, yeah, you're like, oh, can I please have this delivered to me? Or can I please, like, you know, get a cab? Yeah. And then 20 minutes later, oh, so how about that cab? Like, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay. Okay, so we're not on my time clock anymore. I get that. So it was just a lot of letting go of that, which, I don't know, for me seemed pretty simple. And I could adapt to it because I wasn't working when I was gone either. Like, I didn't have to after selling all my stuff. So I wasn't in a rush for anything. And over here on this side of the world, we're so used to rushing. Yeah. And we're so used to, okay, like snap your fingers and something's done, instant gratification. And I got to just like let go of that there, which was actually kind of peaceful.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So coming back, I would imagine you had like some pillars to your like your comeback story, your rebuilding story.
Yeah.
So if you could describe your pillars, and we'll say your pillars are like certain people that have helped you, who would 5 of them be?
okay, this is good. Actually, it was in coming back, and now I see, like, because everything makes sense in hindsight, obviously. But it was when I came back that all the people that I needed in my life got brought to me. Like, there's 100%. I wanted to stay in Australia, to be perfectly honest with you. Like, I was looking at visas. I was trying to do all the things. I'm like, I'm not going back. But the way that everything works out in perfect timing, I got brought back. And everyone that I needed in my life got brought to me. And it was so magical. So first I would say my teacher, my friend, my soul family, and also my boss, Mandy Trapp. She owns Lifestyle Meditation, has been a huge guide for me as I sort of develop my own spiritual practice and am really diving into my own healing and direction of my life. Unreal. Who else? My parents and my sister and my nephews. I have 3 just cute as a button little nephews. They were pretty big, obviously.
Yeah.
That's the family I came back to.
Yeah.
There's so many.
How
can I narrow it down?
Well, I mean, technically, you've basically listed off 5.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that works.
But there's so many more.
I think that's the case. Like, I'll look into the air and I'll pull out these numbers, and people are like, how did he think of 3? Did you just know? I'm like, no, I'm just like, I just say numbers, and I assume they're going to have an answer, and then we go from there.
Yeah.
So I want to know, what makes being an aunt so special for you?
I get to have all the fun and help guide some little humans with the ability to give them back.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And as far as guidance, and we're not talking about, like, feeding them gummy worms and sending them on their way. We're talking about, like, wholesome core value guidance. What's some lessons that you want them to learn from you specifically?
It's not necessarily that I want them to learn from me. I don't want them to forget.
Okay.
I think that when we're born, we're still so connected to the other side or the universe or whatever you want to say or call it. And as we grow, like, as we know, like, until we're the age of around 8 years old, we're just downloading information. And we have our own natural compass. And I don't want them to forget their compass. So I ask them a lot about, well, what do you think? What do you feel? And stuff, so that they can start to kind of recognize that and not lose it. I've already noticed in my oldest nephew, who's 7, the shifts that happen when he went to school. And he just coming back and being like, oh, I can't do this. I'm like, where'd you learn that you can't do this? Or why does it have to be this way? Or, things like his sort of limiting beliefs that are kind of coming in and starting to show. And I'm like, oh man, you're too young for this.
Yeah.
Like, don't forget.
Yeah.
Don't forget who you are.
So how do you push that? Well, not push that. How do you, like, instill that in him? Because, yeah, like, we can reduce our limiting beliefs over an extended period of time, but it's a lot easier said than done. So are you leading by example? Is there something that you say that resonates, or what is it? How do you communicate that? Because it seems to be pretty important.
It is. I think it just random, like, it's kind of my language of speaking now, after all the work that I've done on myself and how I've changed my own belief system. So it's kind of just in the way that I speak. But a story that comes to mind is that they lost their grandma on their dad's side in January of this year. And Charlie, the oldest one, was talking to me. And I was telling him, well, you can always talk to your nanny. You can always talk to her, and she'll talk back. And he said, no, I can't, because she's dead. And then the middle nephew, who's 5 now, he looked at him and he said, "Yes, we can, Charlie." And he puts his hand over his heart and he goes, "In our hearts." And I was like, yes, you're right. Yes, that's it. Charlie, listen to this. Like, so it just kind of like comes up in conversation. They ask me, like, they don't have a lot of experience with that. They've lost their nanny. And then, of course, when my dog passed away, they were very close with my dog as well. So those are their 2 references. And so I try and make it a normal conversation to be able to talk about those things. But
I think there's a lot of, like, because I don't really close too many doors when it comes to, like, the whole spiritual, religious, all that's, like, I'm not a hippie, but, like, I'm in tune with what's out there.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people kind of set some very narrow borders on that stuff. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, that's fine. But let's say somebody is going through grief or loss or anything like that. Like, don't you think it's a lot easier when you're open to the idea that, like, you know, like there's a certain energy or essence and that is still here?
Yes. So we, in the lifestyle community, we lost a healer of ours, a very good friend, someone that we were all very, very close to. July 31st, our friend Cody Hodgson, he passed away of a heart attack. He was only 45, and it totally rocked our world. But for me, this was my first experience of losing a friend, and my first experience of loss with this greater. I've always believed in spirits, and I've always believed in that energy that exists, and I've always, like, I've been fascinated with psychics and mediums and tarot readings and all the things. I do all the things.
All the things.
All the things. I actually get made fun of a lot for that because I will literally try all the things. But so that was, it's been interesting to be grieving that loss, because on a human level and on a physical level, my brain, my body knows that he's gone. But there's a conflict that happens because my spirit, my soul knows that he's not. So it's this has actually been a really interesting loss to sort of try and navigate, because I have moments of knowing that everything is okay and that he's okay, and I've gotten tons of signs and messages, and I've even had conversations with him that I know to be true. But then I do have those moments of where it just kind of like hits you that this person's no longer here. So I find comfort in knowing that my relationship with him is not over. It's just changed, and I need to work on how that relationship has changed, and it's almost getting used to that new dynamic that exists. But I know that there is a new dynamic there, so that's very comforting. Mm-hmm. Of course, I miss having him here and his stupid dad jokes and his big bear hugs and the way that he could make everyone feel so special. So it's like this weird balancing act. But definitely I have more comfort knowing that he's still with us and he's still guiding us, and you know, he's just working from a new place where he has all the power, which I'm sure has gone right to his head.
So, like, it's tough because life just kind of throws these things at us. Mm-hmm. Like, I can't count the number of people that I know of, either through just the network or whatever. Like, nobody wakes up in the morning and says, okay, something really tough is going to happen today. I'm ready. Like, that doesn't happen. That's not the way it works.
No.
What was it like when you heard of the news?
So I was actually at work, and they, everyone else that had kind of known, it had happened earlier in the day. And I had talked to him the day before, and we had made plans for the weekend. And so I'm going about my business and I'm at work, and because I had to work, they decided they're not going to tell me right away. And so I actually found out at work when somebody texted me, like somebody else had texted me that had found out and said, I'm so sorry to hear about Cody. And I had to call her, and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And she said, oh my gosh, like, okay. And I said, do I need to sit down? And she said, you need to sit down. So in that instant, I knew. And then hearing the words, I'm like, you have to be kidding me. The interesting thing about it is from the time that I met Cody, I had a sense that we weren't going to have him forever. So that to me is like a little weird. Like I had this, you know, almost it's the sixth sense. It's just an inner knowing of like, this is not forever. So, I was very shocked that that he passed of a heart attack, especially. This man was fit, CrossFit, running, you name it. Barely drank, never did drugs, didn't smoke, treated his body like a kingdom, and it was a heart attack. So it was very shocking. Almost fitting though too, because he was so loving, and
his heart was too big.
Yeah, you know, Mandy actually had said that to him previously, that if you're not careful, like you give so much and you love so much, if you're not careful, your heart's gonna burst. And then it did.
What was something in his legacy that impacted how you live your life?
He had a motto: to keep showing up. That was his motto. It's hashtagged on every single one of his posts on Instagram, keep showing up. And he did keep showing up. His life was very hard. He spoke very openly about his story on Mandy's podcast. But I've never heard of a story of, I even to this day keep saying, like, nobody should ever have to go through that much stuff. Like, how can one person go through all those things? It's a wild roller coaster that he lived on, and through it all, he showed up.
Yeah.
And he showed up for other people. He just kept showing up.
So you wake up tomorrow, you start your day, you get your coffee concoction that you told me about. How do you just show up?
How do I just show up?
What does that look like for you in your life right now?
It's different every day.
Yeah.
For me. I get done what I need to get done. I make sure I try and not do anything external of myself until 10 a.m. So I try and keep those first few hours of the morning for myself. And I'm in the middle of building my business right now. So I do a lot of work on that. I work with my coach, and I make sure that I'm completing my homework for that. But I'm also working with my clients and checking in with them and making sure they're completing their stuff, and just always trying to find new ways to... I'm always listening to podcasts. Honestly, I don't know how I can ingest as much information as I ingest, and I don't know what I do with it, but somehow when I need it, the right thing comes to me, and I'm like, oh, I heard this last year on this podcast. And, but even on the days when I'm really not feeling like it, I just kind of remember, keep showing up.
Yeah.
And then I just do what I have to do. And sometimes that actually means honoring the fact that I'm maybe not in a headspace to do the things I need to do, and like what cannot be done. Learning the art of saying no.
Yeah, or just like rerouting so that you're more effective for the other days.
Yeah.
Like yesterday, dead serious, just got in the car, drove to Edson and stopped for snacks, got back in the car, drove back.
Just drove to Edson?
Just to drive. Just to Edson.
Honestly, though, driving is so amazing.
Yeah.
I get so many good ideas just driving. Plus, I can put on a really amazing concert. And I feel like anyone that sees me driving should have to pay me money.
Or they might crash. They're like, what the hell is on dear?
Well, that hasn't happened yet, so knock on
That's good.
knock on wood. Like, let's not manifest that happening.
No, yeah. Jesus.
But it's pretty unreal. I have a really sick recall for song lyrics. I don't know why, but I just remember song lyrics, and I'll remember it. I retain it far better than the information I probably should be retaining. But I can sing you a song. I'm not very good, but I can sing you a song.
If it was a karaoke battle, which is your go-to? What's your song that's...
Do you know I've never done karaoke?
What?
Yeah!
Oh, well.
Because I just do it in my car all the time.
I guess. Saves money.
Yeah. But I was just in Mount Shasta in California, and I was the navigator / DJ for the entire trip. And I did a lot of rap. So there was quite a bit of Eminem. There was some Tupac involved. And I also really crushed a Cher song.
Well, there you go.
So, yeah.
It's good. You got, like, basically all the go-tos that people would, like... A lot of people fall back on Eminem because it's a hype song.
Yeah.
You can really build up the crowd. Everybody's like, yeah. They don't care what the lyrics are.
Yeah.
They're just like, yeah, they're playing my song.
Yeah.
What's your hype song? What if you were about to like compete in intramural sports or win a race or something? What would be your like wrestling entrance song?
My wrestling entrance song. I can't picture myself wrestling.
Well, I mean, you know.
But my fight song.
Yeah, your fight song.
Yeah.
There we go.
I would have a fight song. And honestly, right now, it would change all the time, I think, depending on what else is happening and what battles I'm overcoming.
But say tomorrow morning you had a fight. It was your time
tomorrow
to shine
morning,
the champs. And you gotta pick one.
If tomorrow morning I had a fight, I would probably actually go with Carrie Underwood's Champion. Because that seems to be hyping me up lately.
And what about it?
And who doesn't love like a good ludicrous rap in the middle of a country song?
True enough.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of you got sort of like country roots with some Luda influence, and that sort of gets the heart rate going. You're ready to go?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
With the last year and a half, like you've gone through a lot of like soul searching and kind of like grounding yourself. What are 3 things that kind of stand out that either made this happen or helped this happen?
To get to this last year and a half? Like in this last year and a half?
Throughout the last year and a half.
Throughout the last year and a half? I would say actually everything to make this happen happened before.
Okay.
So I would say my relationship that I was in was so massively impactful to push me in this direction, and as much as it hurt and was completely toxic and just so brutal in so many ways, I am so unbelievably grateful for it, to the point that honestly that could bring tears to my eyes thinking about like the gratitude I have for going through that. The death of my dog was a massive one to push me, and just all the lessons in being able to let go and give grace, and then I would say finding my tribe and being reconnected. I say reconnected because I definitely believe in past lives, and I know that the group of women and the people that I've met through an at lifestyle, we've done this before and we're doing it again, but they have helped me to change my whole life completely. Just having other people on the days when you don't believe in yourself, to have so many other people with just unwavering faith in you that you can borrow from them when you don't have it on your own is just, it's so amazing to see and to experience and to have and to feel.
I like it. And it's interesting because the worst things that happen to us have the best outcomes. So it's almost like you want to wish bad things to happen to somebody, and not in like a weird, bizarre, like bad way.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody has a desire to grow and do great big things.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to be paying to play, sort of thing. I use that expression a lot, but it's just, in order to have wisdom, you gotta fall on your ass.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in order to overcome things, you have to go through things.
Yeah.
And like, it's crazy, but the biggest joy that I get in the podcast is trying to really hammer that message home. Like, there's a whole bunch of people, and we're all going to go through things.
Yeah.
And these are the stories of people who went through things.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's going to navigate it differently. Everybody's going to have a different outcome. Everybody's going to have different consequences. But chances are they'll make it through.
Mm-hmm.
And like, life is crazy.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Like, what even is this? I say this all the time. I'm like, why? What even is this?
Totally. Did your perspective on just like you only live once, or just that whole idea of life is short, did that change with the recent loss of a close friend?
I've always known that life is short. I definitely, with Cody's passing, I definitely felt the unfairness. It's only unfair for those of us left behind. I also believe, like, our humanness needs to make sense of everything and find logic and reason and all the things to it. So I think that's a very human thing that I'm kind of going through, seeing that it's unfair, because he's someone was trying so hard and working so hard on himself.
Yeah.
That I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Why would that happen to him over someone else, or, whatever? Like, why? It doesn't make any sense. But you definitely see, like, okay, you got to put in your work every day and do your best, the best that you're able to do that day. And sometimes that isn't a lot, and that's okay too. But you really just never know. You honestly don't ever know. It definitely gave me a good shake up. The losses I've experienced before, I've had the opportunity to say goodbye. And this one, I didn't have the opportunity to say goodbye. So that changed my perspective a bit on maybe what I hold back on saying and what I should say. And just genuinely, like, letting the people that I care about know that I care about them. And
totally.
that I appreciate them. I'm very thankful that one of the last things that I did say to Cody was that I appreciated him. But yeah, just getting it out, because you honestly just don't know.
Yeah. Well, that was a perfect segue, because I really try to focus on the fact that, like, the people who have the greatest impact in our lives have no clue.
No clue.
Like, even if they're being told through social media or through all these things, it's not being articulated in such a way that they feel like they can identify with it. And communication seems to be like, I mean, I am on Instagram all the time, so a person can be like, oh, you post 3 times a day, dude, like, chill. But when you get outside of Instagram and you interact with people, you realize how much communication, connection, and shared energy can impact a person and the fulfillment that they get from life.
Honestly, the power of our words is wild.
Yeah.
I think everyone probably has a story that they can think back on where somebody's words have stuck with them, good or bad. Good or bad. And you remember clear as day. So hopefully you've said something to someone that is good that they can remember and they take with you.
That's
or
all
they
we
take
can
with them.
Really hope for. But
you have to say it. That's the thing.
Totally.
And we're really conditioned, and it's really easy to point out negatives and to be trying, even if you're trying to help somebody grow or give constructive criticism or whatever the case may be, pointing out areas of improvement for other people is a lot easier and a lot more common than saying I love you.
Yep.
Friends don't really even say that to each other. I tell my friends all the time. I always say, like, if I didn't drink, how would everyone know that I love them at 2:00 in the morning? Like, you wouldn't. I'm really bad for that.
I think everybody has a tendency, but I think when it's like a certain level, it's like, I know that they were serious because like they were at that right level. They were just a little happy, and the truth came out. Now I know. I feel better. You know?
Yeah, but being able to say that at 10:00 in the morning.
Yeah. Means a bit more.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, maybe.
But no, like it's everybody that we look up to. Each one of us has no clue of the impact. Like they might know, but they don't know.
Honestly, it's true. Like one of the things for me, and I don't know if people would know this, but I absolutely love seeing people just go for it. Whatever it is for them, to just go for it. When you first started your podcast, or maybe it was already started, but when we first were connected on Instagram and I started seeing what you were doing, I was like, yes, go for it. Yes, do the thing. And I actually experienced feelings of like pride on not even knowing you, like face to face. And I'm like, yes, this guy is doing the thing. I'm so happy for him. Everyone, watch this. Do this thing. And I think I sent you a list of like, hey, you should talk to these people on your podcast.
Yeah, no, I totally, like, I followed up with that. It's pending, but it'll come.
Yeah, it'll come. It'll come.
But yeah, it's just perspective is very powerful because I think we live in a world with ebbs and flows, and there's lots of people going through lots of different things, and we think that everybody has their shit handled. We think, oh no, they're good. No need to check in with them. Like the post looked real good. Professional photography, we good. Move on. But that's not quite gonna cut it. Like that is not gonna help really. You know, like I could get 300 likes on a post. I've never had 300 likes on a post, but like if I did, that's not gonna
Let's
change.
get you 300 likes on a post.
Yes, let's do it.
Yes, let's do that.
It's never gonna change how I see myself. It's never gonna change really my outcomes. Like I maybe all of a sudden be like a influencer or something, but like that is not gonna make me happier.
You already are an influencer though.
Okay, no.
That's the thing. No, but it might not look like whatever we call an influencer, and I'm using air quotes, but you are. Like you influence people. That makes you an influencer.
True. But my angle is that is not where I feel closest to joy. Like I think I like these meaningful connections. Like I really thrive off of the fact that it's getting to the point where I know the most about the most people because like I'm just plugging away here every week. It's just if it's not in person, it's over a video chat, and I actually like know things about people. I know people's favorite video games. I know what their dog looks like.
Yeah.
I know things that matter, and it's just then that fills my cup because I'm kind of like the keeper of this stuff. Like I get to grow from this stuff. I get to feel like this sense of value because like I've shared this space with all these people, and it accumulates and accumulates and accumulates. Versus if that wasn't a priority to me, because like the podcast is definitely a priority to me, which is bizarre because I make nothing from the podcast at this point in time. However, Yeg Fitness is an official sponsor. They cover the upload costs, so thank you, Yeg Fitness. But like from a business standpoint, like my bills are paid 95% by personal training.
Yeah.
But like the podcast is still like a non-negotiable thing for me.
But this is your passion.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, training is my passion, too. But, like, the podcast is, like, that's where I see myself leveling up as a person. Mm-hmm. Because I'm opening up the door to other people in their lives and their experiences, which inherently makes me a better person because I live with an open heart kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. And it allows you to have empathy for other people, too.
It's important to be able to put yourself in other people's shoes.
Yeah.
And just like get it and like actually stop in your tracks and put your agenda aside whenever you can.
Yeah.
To be like, okay, like I wonder how this person felt at this moment. Like I wonder how they got through this tough time, and I wonder what they really care about, what their big goals are coming up. Mm-hmm. Which is perfect, because what are your goals coming up?
My goal is...
say, like, 5 years from now. And think Lululemon style. Big, hairy, audacious goal. Like, something that is just, like, you think it's impossible, but you like to write it down anyways.
Well, so I don't actually think anything's impossible.
There you go.
Funny story, which we can circle back on the question about my nephew and what I say to them. This actually happened today before coming here. I overheard my nephew playing with some Lego, and he said that this is impossible. And he was about to start crying because he's 5 and that's what they do. And I said to him, I said, Luke, do you want to know what's actually impossible? And he said, what? And I said, whatever you decide is impossible. That's what's impossible. I don't really think anything is impossible because we see it every day. People doing things that are completely not within what we would perceive to be a realm of something that's going to happen for them or something that is achievable. But, and I'm kind of cheating on this answer because I already know that it's going to happen. It's just I don't know how. But my big goal is speaking on a stage for hundreds and hundreds and as many hundreds of women that can attend, and helping them to understand their stories and how to use their stories for business, and connecting to their own messaging and having that bigger awareness of themselves and creating that alignment in their life, because I don't think that we're here to suffer, and I think that we suffer so much because we're not actually using the resources that we literally have all around us. We just maybe can't see it to work with us. Like, nature is a real fuck of a thing.
In a good way.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
I don't say that in a bad way. Like, it is like a weird, like, wildcat that, like, wow, the stuff that we can do when we align with universe, source, whatever anyone wants to call it, nature. It's nature. When we align with that, the way the world works, holy smokes. That's when the magic happens. Well, and like, you don't have to work so hard. That's the beautiful thing. You don't have to work so hard.
I think people get caught in the trap of like work, but it's like, yes, they could be making more money, like maybe they're making double time overtime sort of thing, or maybe they're getting more material possessions, but there's countless, like, we can go dive for podcast stories of CEOs that made a whole bunch of money and then all of a sudden they hit this wall and then they decided they needed to do something that felt more fulfilling. Like, there's a ton of case studies of that. So we don't need to prove that point.
Yeah.
It's just everybody's going to get there a different way.
Yeah.
And especially, like, nobody likes being told what to do. And that, they hate it.
Ooh, that's a big one for me. Yeah.
So everybody's going to find that process in a different way. Like, for myself, it's not like I don't think that I will have a bigger house one day, or it's not like I don't think that I'll have a big backyard for a dog and stuff like that. But I do think that having a mindset of like experience and purpose first and financial wealth second, like people first, I think
people first.
That is the mindset that will bring me the most abundance. Because I used to be of the impression that, you know, like you're looking for a certain like income, and you hit that income, and then you get these things, and you find somebody, you settle down, you get a truck at some point, like it's just all these different things that you just see other people do, and that's how you do it. But then it's like, if you're feeling empty half the time while you're going towards that, what's in that's going to change? You're just going to have a bunch of different stuff but feel the same way. So sometimes you have to go for like the emotion first, or the people first, and then the other stuff kind of takes place. Like your vibe attracts your tribe, as your vibe attracted your tribe, and the outcomes take place because of who you're surrounded by. Like you're the product of the 5 closest people to you. I don't remember where that comes from, but it's a very common quote. Yep. It's super true.
It's super true. Yeah. And if you start looking around, you notice it in all kinds of different settings and people in different friend groups and things like that.
Well, I think it brings the importance of like a really healthy community and really good communication. Like not healthy from like the wellness standpoint. It's not like wellness is great, but healthy from the communication standpoint, in such a way that when things get really, really, really scary, you don't run. Like you buckle
say, fuck
up.
It.
Well, yeah, I guess. You love that expression.
You say fuck it and keep going.
Oh yeah. But like, you know, when say somebody in your inner circle is going through the toughest moment ever, and that's going to require a lot of empathy. And empathy, that is like a part-time job. And I speak that from experience. Like I have to exert a ton of empathy in my life, in all the friends I'm surrounded by who, like, I wouldn't sell them for $1 million. Like, they're there to stay.
Yeah.
But in order to keep that sort of in order to not be a sellout per se, and to keep these people close, you have to be strong, and you have to develop this empathy in such a way that, like, these are your ride or die people.
Yeah.
And that's tough. And that is like building a house out of bricks when you don't know how to build a house with bricks.
Yeah.
And they didn't give you the material. So you have to kind of figure it out as you go.
Yeah, you've got a hammer. And maybe you're building a house with bricks. What are you going to do with
Play-Doh
a hammer?
at one point.
Yeah.
And you're, oh, no, it better scoop that out. Play-Doh's not going to quite cut it today. You know?
Yeah.
Like, nobody has the roadmap.
Yeah.
But everybody can make the effort.
Yeah. I think being an empathetic person, though, and it's really funny because I just did a lot of learning on this just this past weekend. A good friend of mine is a psychic medium, and she's a certified astrologer. And I didn't know this, but being an empathetic person, literally, you have more nerve endings in your body than the average person. So you actually feel things so differently. Like, so differently. So I think when you're being, like, when you are an empathetic person, because not everybody is, you really have to know how to manage yourself to be able to help other people.
Yeah.
Because it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
It's overwhelming.
Sometimes you go to Edson.
Sometimes you go to Edson to buy snacks.
Yeah.
You know?
That's what it takes.
Sometimes you gotta go to Edson to buy snacks, and I hear that they have really great snacks, so worth the trip.
Funny thing, I went to McDonald's and I got a couple McDoubles. I wasn't even like, it wasn't the time of day where you could go to the coffee shops because it was a Sunday.
Yeah.
And I think it was like 5 p.m. or something at that point. I don't know. I didn't try very hard. I knew I needed the drive.
You need the journey.
Yeah.
You needed the journey.
I wanted the road to be tree lined.
Yeah.
I didn't care where I was going. I just needed to go somewhere.
Yeah.
Because really I was going somewhere in my mind.
You were going somewhere in your mind, yeah.
So what is your stance or your perspective on old souls? Because that's something that comes up a lot for me. I've been called an old soul.
So an old soul just means that you've been here a few times.
It's crazy.
So you understand things differently and you see things. It's almost more of like that umbrella look, like you're at the top. Like you just can almost see a bigger picture and you just understand things from a way that maybe doesn't make sense in this life, but you can see it from a perspective of a different one. So you come at it from a different angle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that is how my experience has been.
Yeah.
It's kind of, you get to sort of understand things in a way that makes other people think, how the hell did they know?
Yeah. But you're also a very empathetic person too, so you just kind of know things.
Yeah.
You feel like you
Intuition
feel them on a
just
different level.
Cranked up to the top. Mm-hmm. Which is cool.
Yeah. No,
but,
my intuition has gotten a lot of people in a lot of trouble.
That's scary.
Well, if you just know things, like I can't explain it, I just know.
Yeah.
You know, I just know. I just know.
You don't know unless you know, and you know.
And so, I know.
You know?
And I know. I know the things. So don't try and hide it from me because I know the things.
True enough. True enough.
Yeah. Intuition's like actually such an amazing tool, and everybody has an intuition, and you just need to learn to develop it, and there's ways to learn to develop it, and I really recommend that everyone does that because it's when you have someone else, and I say someone else, but it's yourself, but not your brain guiding the ship, you get to where you're going so much faster and you can avoid so much stuff.
Well, I think a lot of things that people struggle with is the idea that they have to be somebody else.
Yeah.
Or like it's just it happens more and more and more and more in any form of business in which that they say, oh well, want to know how I do what I do? Go do what I do. And it's like, no, you don't do what they do, you do what you do.
Exactly.
And maybe you get some life advice, or maybe they give you some skills, but you do you.
Exactly. That's
like,
one thing that drives me crazy right now on Instagram is all the courses and all the things for all the same. Hey, here's how you do this sales funnel. Here's how 5 steps to this. And I'm like, stop.
There, you said it. I didn't say it. Thank you.
Just stop. A lot of my ideas and the way that I go about stuff is kind of fueled by what I get pissed off at. And like my background is in marketing and stuff. And I'm like, no, like there is a way better and way easier way. And everyone has access to it. And it's not going to work for you because it worked for you. Like everyone's so different and everyone's story is so different. And I fully believe that there is enough out there for everyone. Everyone can have their piece of the pie. And it's so much easier than it looks right now. It's so overwhelming. I get overwhelmed and I know this stuff. And I'm like, what's all this stuff? All these free course for this and join my webinar and here you have to take this because you need to know that. I'm like, whoa, that's enough.
Yeah.
That's enough. So stop. Everyone stop.
Yeah. Well, it's everything that we need is kind of within us. And it's about finding the people that foster that.
Exactly.
Because, yeah, we need some people in our life.
100%.
But there's some people that are really great for us. And it's about having that intuition to identify them. Mm-hmm. And it's about having that resilience to stick with them. Mm-hmm. Like, these are important skills that it's just like training in a gym. Like, if you don't do deadlifts for 3 years, you're going to suck at deadlifts. So if you don't learn how to vibe with your people, you're not going to be very effective. And is like social media is a great tool for connecting people. Like that's kind of how this podcast came to be. But at the same time, imagine if this was just over the phone and how much different it would be.
So different.
Like, not even because I talk with my hands so much, but
I
also,
talk
like,
with my hands too.
It's that whole, like, we're in the same space.
Yeah, no, our energy is like completely melded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is a tangible thing that more people need.
Yeah.
And yeah, I can't say it enough, so I often, pretty much, I think I say it every episode lately.
I've noticed.
So, if you had to think of 5 things that you are grateful for today, what are your 5 things?
I'm grateful for how much work I was able to accomplish today. That makes me really happy. I'm grateful for all 3 of my nephews giving me a hug and one sharing his fries with me. I'm grateful for a beautiful conversation that I got to have with one of my coworkers where we can openly talk about a lot of things. And so I find that, especially when it comes to death, people get sort of a little closed up, but and it's just sometimes you don't know what to say, and I totally get that, but it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable, and I think maybe it might be because people don't know what to say. But so being able to just have sort of open conversation and let it all out was amazing. And to know that we're going through similar feelings at similar times was really something beautiful. I'm very grateful to be here.
Oh, thank you.
And having this conversation with you. That makes me very happy. And I was really grateful that when I filled my car up with gas, I was at a gas station that was at 93 cents and not 105. So that was a big win.
That's a huge win.
Yeah, I was really happy about that.
And it's cool because you went through 5 things, and I can count like hundreds of people that don't make the time to do that. How did you feel after you like really had to reflect on that?
I like to reflect on things that I'm grateful for quite often.
Which makes you a great advocate for it.
Yeah.
So what makes it important for you to do that?
It changes your energy, number one.
Yeah.
It always changes your energy. Gratitude and joy are like some of the highest vibrations you can have. So being able to actually, and you probably noticed, it probably doesn't come through on the podcast, so sorry guys, but you probably noticed that when I was listing, like my voice changed a little bit. That might have been able to be seen, but I started smiling, and like my energy changes when I start to list things like that.
Yeah.
Like it like physically happens. So that's probably the main reason. Any chance you can get to like raise your vibe.
Well, totally. It's just like everybody's seeing all these courses and stuff, and it's like it's appealing to their sense of like, I don't got this. I don't feel safe. I need something to feel safe. But like everybody, if they're looking at their phone, well, they woke up that day. Mm-hmm. And there's a good chance they have a roof over their head. Mm-hmm. They probably have some loved ones. They hopefully have a means of employment. That's always a thing to be grateful for. Mm-hmm. They might have a favorite pet. Maybe they have a friend that really means something to them. Maybe they had a conversation that day.
Maybe they saw a pretty tree.
That counts.
Maybe.
That counts.
We've got a few of those here.
I mean, I like trees, but they never make it onto the gratitude list. But I can see how it make it onto somebody's.
Yeah.
So I have a question that I ask all of my guests.
Okay.
And you're ready. You're ready for this one. So if you had one piece of advice on how to authentically live your life to the fullest, what would that piece of advice be?
How to authentically live your life to the fullest. My piece of advice for that is to bring yourself into alignment with who you actually are. And there's a lot of different ways that you can do that, but coming into yourself is the best way to be yourself. You can't be yourself if you don't know who that is. And I think a lot of people get tied up on What is my authentic self? What is authenticity? And I've actually thought about that a lot recently. And I don't know that that's something I could put into words. I can't tell you this is who I am. I can't give you a sentence saying, like, if you were to say, who are you? I can give you my name. I can give you what I do for a living. I can give you my parents' names. I can give you my dogs. I can do all the things and say, oh, I was a dog mom and I'm an auntie and I'm a sister. I don't have words for who I am. Like, I just am.
Yeah.
That's it. I just am. And I act in accordance with what feels true for me and where I'm at. And that can change over time. But I think that coming into alignment with myself, and I know what that feels like now, on a physical level, on a mental level, on an emotional level, on a spiritual level, I know what that feels like. And so my advice to people is to find out what that feels like for you. Because when you know what that feels like for you, you know what it feels like when you're off. And you know when you're back on. You know what you need to do to come back. Or you can always seek help to help bring you back. But just living in that space of feeling in alignment with yourself, when you feel that, you're living authentically.
I like it.
Yeah.
And I think my closing remarks will be it's less about like who you are, like your title or your job or what your name is or how many followers you have or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's more about like how you make people feel.
It is.
Because a lot of people look at somebody with this title or this name or they're this influence and they're like, well, if I say what they say or if I do what they do, then I will be just like them. But there's like a missing ingredient, there's a missing connection, there's missing follow-up or that whole feeling of empathy where that person's putting in the work to leave people feeling differently than how they met them. Yeah. And that's the missing ingredient. Like some of the most impactful people are impactful because they left their people feeling different.
Yeah. Different in a better way, hopefully.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean,
nobody's a ray of sunshine all the time, and as much as we all have villains in our story, we're also the villain in other people's stories, and I think that we all kind of tend to forget that.
Well, in a very dark, twisted way, even the villains in our story tend to shift things. That's where the major life changes happen, which was a major theme of today's episode.
Yeah.
So thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you around.
Really love it if I got some feedback in the form of ratings. So if you enjoy the lifestyle chase, if you could go and give it 5 stars in whatever podcast platform that you listen to, it's probably easiest to do on Apple Podcasts /iTunes. I'd really appreciate it. There's a lot of love and hard work that goes into this, and it helps me go up in the rankings, which helps with just the podcast in general. If more people hear it, then I feel more impact as I put a lot of heart and soul into this. So thank you for listening and hope you enjoyed.